All right, this is the dollar, the dollar pair. Um, there's been some sort of correlation between this and the markets and BTC. So right now we're doing we're trying to see if this correlation actually holds true. So on the weekly, this looks super bullish. It's approaching immediate resistance. So I did a confluence of fibs. So basically it was from these highs to these lows, and then it was from these highs to these lows. And basically the 0.23 fib was the area that it kept getting rejected on in a lower time frame. If we go down to a lower time frame, this was the zone I was indicating in prior videos that it needed to close above. Now on the lower time frame, it is approaching resistance right now. In the lower time frame, I do see coming down and consolidating along this zone to possibly allow BTC and the stock market to recover a little bit, but I do believe this is going to continue possibly to the 0.50. I think easily it can come back up to these levels between 97 and 98, and then at that point we're going to have to evaluate what's going to happen. Now this is sometimes last week, as I was telling one of my friends, to see this little dragonfly at this supply level, resistance level, is tried to claim repeatedly, sold off repeatedly. They finally claimed it. This is called basically a test pump. Someone told me this a long time ago. So it sells off, and then as long as it holds along the support base sideways, that means it's good to go. That's basically what happened. It pierced through and came down on the retest, and I've just been grinding now. We got some supply zone right here, which has been the rejection, and I believe this could come down, possibly consolidate along these areas. If not, it can possibly drop back down to these levels, or 93.50 to 93.80. Just come down here and just consolidate. It can do something like this before it grinds higher, or it can do something like that and then just come down and just consolidate a little bit longer before it eventually makes its marks, I believe, back up to this levels here between 97 and basically 96. Now I don't believe this consolidation is going to be this deep. Possibly in the lower time frame you're starting to see them curl up, some little oversold conditions. We'll look at the RSI in a little bit. I believe it won't be this deep. Now let's draw a fib from these lows to these highs, and that's around the 0.50. This is the 0.23, so we can possibly say between 93 and 96, which I was alluding in the high time frame, between 93.50 and 93.80 as the retrace before it moved higher. So on the lower time frame, then we can possibly do something like this before it grinds higher. The reason I say 0.50 is I'm looking at these supply zones here, that from which price got rejected. So we can say on top of these candles. So again, 93.80 to 93.60. That's the area I believe it will drop down to consolidate before it grinds higher. Now let's go back up to the high time frame. This is extremely bullish. It was able to confirm. It pierced right through to the 0.23 fib. It has to do a retrace to make sure this is held well. Again, I believe it's shouldn't retrace too much far down. Just consolidate on lower time frame before it makes an eventual there. Now if it comes back down to the 0.23, that means the rest of the markets are going to do quite well, and then this one might just be some big deviation and then just sell off, which I don't see that as an option, to be honest. This to me says small retrace, again back down to those levels, possibly only to 94.34 before it continues higher, but let's see what happens. But I think a little deeper, 93.80 in the lower time frame, a little consolidation before it goes higher. Now we go back. That retrace might not be that deep. It could possibly be not that deep, but I'm looking at all these zones here. So this is the zone ideally where I would be looking for price to just hold, to retrace to, and I think this zone will hold. Okay, so this is the area that I'm looking at, and there's a wide zone. There you go, right there. That's the area I will look for. See if price comes all the way back down here. I personally, doesn't seem like it wants to. In the high time frame, this looks extremely bullish. So this pullback may not be this deep. If this pullback is this deep, I think stocks and BTC will pump nicely for the next week or two. And again, the weekly confirmed this 0.23 fib. It's gone like it did here. Pierce came down, regained it, came up, came down to confirm it, bounced up to the 0.61. It did sort of around the retest, and then around the retest it held, and it just took off. Now, could that be the same scenario here? Could it come all the way back down to 0.23 to test before it goes higher? The point that I'm trying to make is, on high time frames, something that I noticed is when price pierces to the 0.23, it comes back down to retest it, and that level holds. That means price is good to go for a swing. Now let's see what happens here. But to me, even the indicators are just scraping the bottom like it happened here. So from back here, let's see what was. We're talking about 12% pump. We'll say 10%. Can it rent this high? I'm not sure. 107 to 103. A friend of mine thinks it's going to run to 120. That's basically going to grind for the next couple of months. So let's see how high it goes. But I personally think it's going to go back up to these highs. We go look at it on a monthly. Yep, 95. Now I was looking at another chart, a clean chart, and that's something I just noticed now. Maybe because the scale of the chart was more zoomed out. But you guys see this here? This is a critical zone. It's a resistance. So support, pumped up, it came down, it went back up to regain this level. It came down, tried to regain the level, it got sold off. This zone is important. 95. If it flips 95, it's gone. I do believe it's going to go back up to these highs. The critical zone right now is the 95 level. So again, because I probably didn't have anything in my drawings, but this to me is a critical zone, the zone here. So see the zone here, this consolidation for this pump. This is a critical zone. Straight across, this is a key zone, and it's piercing right into it. So it's almost approaching resistance. So let's go to a higher time frame to try to be a little more precise. Right, we can say right there. So that would be the area that it has to flip. Right now is an immediate resistance. But to me, that's key area that I noticed when I was looking at this chart over here. When I was zoomed out, you see this here? Bounce, sold off, and regained it. Now is a resistance. So if you draw a line here straight across, it needs to do a SR flip. Okay, look at these wicks. So I believe there's going to be some rejection here. You're going to have a retrace. Again, I'm looking at 8380 around that zone. I'm trying to look at the bottom of this, this close and open, and the bottom of these wicks here. All these wicks are right here. So this is a lot of support and demand in the lower time frame. If we draw a box right through this open. Let me change this color. Touching all these wicks, you guys will see what I'm talking about. Look at that. Rejection, 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 support, support. This is a great demand at some point. So this here is a critical level. So I believe it tried to retest it. This level is basically the same area, say 93.80, around there. So let's see if price, the dollar drops here, consolidates along this band before it makes another attempt, does something like that, or like I say, maybe the retrace is not that deep and we have something like this. But this is a key level here. It flips 95. It flips basically 95. I believe this is going to rock. So I believe right now it's just going to retrace, get some little temporary relief for BTC and some of these alts, and see if this correlation holds. Now let's look at one more chart over here. So we're looking at this chart here from a high time frame. As you see here, it has to get outside of these two parallel bands to climb higher, and we're talking about the 95 zone. I'm talking about the 95 zone. And as you see here, this is a critical level here. You go on the monthly and you see this consolidation level, so this zone here is critical. Alright, so we actually can, it's just, let's show you guys that why this zone is important. Okay, this is why this zone is important. Now, does it get rejected? It creates a deviation in a lower time frame that leads to a sell-off? Possibly. Now, this is something I told. Go watch the previous DXI video that I made for a friend, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, I will invert it. What does that seem? That seems like it flipped. Did an SR flip, is coming down to retest, then we're going to have a sell-off. Could that be the case? So I'm just trying to look at it from both argumental perspectives. This could happen. Something similar, if you go look at the Stratus chart, people were bullish on it, going all-time high or near all-time high, and then it created a huge deviation like this to a sell-off. And now Stratus is pumping. But something like this possibly happen here on lower time frame for this to continue to sell off, meaning that the dollar is just giving us basically a bull trap before it continues to sell off. I personally don't think that's what's happening here. I think that level is going to be regained on a retrace. It's going to make the attempt, it's going to pump it, and I believe it will go up back to 98, which is basically what I got this parallel, the secondary trend line. I believe it's going to go to there. Now it claims 98. If you look at it from a horizontal perspective, that's a critical level straight across. Okay. 98, let me draw. It claims 98, basically all markets going to be shitting on their pants. Okay, this is a critical zone here. So critical zone claims this then I believe this could possibly, if you run the fibs, it's basically going to go up to the 127 fib and possibly 161, which again, it goes back to the nearly all-time highs from 2002. Alright, so that's pretty scary. So this zone here in between is a critical zone. If you guys have noticed, look at this. Came back to support and test before it take off. So that's the reason those two zones are super critical. Super critical. Came back to retest, failed to hold, sold off, try to claim it, tried to hold it, come up, failed to hold it, sold off. It's trying to claim it now. I believe it's going to claim. It's going to go back up to retest to test the zone, possibly get rejected hard before it eventually makes another attempt and go higher. I'm not certain. All I can practically say for the immediate future, I believe this top zone will be claimed again. But right now we're going to have a little retrace and then eventually retrace consolidation before it goes higher. This thing is on an uptrend. Alright, or it can just be a little sell-off. It could happen something like this. Sells off. Now the invalidation level for me obviously is going to be anything below 93.24. To me is bearish. So we're looking at it here. It came down, retested. Anything below here was bearish. That's basically what happened. That's your invalidation zone, that the uptrend is no longer intact. Look at it in the lower time frame. See why this zone is so important. That's basically it, folks. It's just a friend of mine alluded to me that there's a direct correlation between the USA dollar and BTC and the stocks, but mostly BTC. And he timed the March dump, basically. So we're talking about March. Look at this pump in March here. That's when BTC dumped, right here, on these two massive candles. Just go back, do your own back testing, and let's see what happens. But I believe it's in an uptrend.